Yes, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show that we have a full house on the board tonight. All 7 members are present. And now we will approve the minutes from March the 9th. Has everybody had a chance to read those minutes?
Mr. President, I just had a notation on that minutes from the 9th that even though I voted in that meeting and was present and made motions, I was not listed as members present. So if we could just add my name to members present, I'd appreciate it.
I noticed that too, yeah. Says Adam wasn't here, but you weren't, were you?
Correct.
Yeah. Tom Pato's name is spelled wrong.
Is it?
Not on the March one. I think the April one, wasn't it?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Where was it? Which one? March or April? Oh, there, okay. Yeah. You see that Tom Pato's spelled P-A-D-A.
Made a motion. Oh. I see that.
Okay. So is there any other corrections you've seen besides adding Greg to the present list and changing the spelling on Mr. Pato's name? I would entertain a motion for approval.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. You want me to go ahead and sign these, or since you're going to correct them, you want to wait?
I think the corrections are all on the first page, so yes. Corrections in page 1.
Fair enough. Sorry, I forgot to take my hat off. Got even had it on, huh?
There. Free.
I got 2 of them. Hand that down, Barry. There you go. Okay, for April now. This one was done by video, web video, and I was maybe there, maybe not.
Same way.
That was, okay. Everybody have a chance to read these minutes? Anybody have any corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve them as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. We have no old business, so we'll get right into the new business. Public hearing, text amendment, ordinance number 14-2020, amending accessory uses. Section 4.3B.1.A, area of the Danville zoning ordinance.
Okay, this text amendment is change the way that the ordinance is currently written. Right now, you're allowed 1,000 square feet or 50% of the size of the home. And what we were finding is that there were a lot of variances requested and issued. So we thought, well, maybe we need to look at the ordinance and make a change. So I worked with Barry on this, and we kind of both went back and forth on, what would be adequate for the large lot, what would be adequate for the small lot, so that it's fair overall. So we came up with 10%. And if you look in your packet, I've made a copy of the ordinance and shown you what we were proposing to do. We're going to completely delete number 3, 4.3 B3, so that it's the total for all. 10% of the total lot area is what you're allowed in accessory structures. And that could include a pool, it can include a shed, it can include a gazebo, anything that's considered accessory to that principal use. So you would be allowed 10% of the total lot area. I talked with Tommy a little bit earlier, and he had a concern about the way that it's worded, and we can word it. He just wanted to make sure that it states more clear that it's a total for all accessory structures. It's not that you're limited to just one, but the amount of square footage is what you're limited to. So,
Question on the second change where you eliminate B3, and that's where you put a limit on the number of accessory buildings. So they can have 10 or 15 accessory buildings as long as they do not exceed the 10% of the lot.
accessory structure.
Structure.
Right. Be, like I said, it could be a pool, it could be a shed, whatever that accessory structure is. But they would be limited to 10% total. That's all you get. 10% of your lot is all you get.
The way it's worded, I brought this up to Lisa, when I read this, I thought, well, wait a minute, if I had a lot that had 2 acres, which is 87,000 plus square feet, 10% of that would be 8,700 roughly for a building. But it doesn't say one. I could put 4 or 5 of them up at that rate. So that's why I brought that up to her, thinking that we need to, if it's going to be a total of 10%, that's fine.
So let me, after he mentioned this, I tried to come up with a different wording, and I'm going to read that and tell me what you think. I put, maybe under area, accessory structures shall not exceed a combined total of 10% of the area of any lot/parcel.
There you go.
I don't know
combined
if that
total.
makes it more clear, or
Yeah, it does,
if that's
I think.
better. Or if something that you all come up with.
You still think there's no need to put a limit on the number of such structures? Visually, it could make a huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, most of the smaller lots, they're going to be limited anyway. I mean, if you have a 5 to 10,000 square foot lot, you're going to be really restricted on how many buildings or structures you can get on that lot anyway. But if you want to put something in there limiting the number, that's perfectly fine.
Would you mentioned about the number of variances, that have, popped up. This wording, I mean, if you were to go back 12 months, I mean, would that have solved all of those variances, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the issues that this has come about is the large parcels that we have in town. We would have a 5-acre lot, and they were allowed a 1,000 square foot building. It really didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we just continually were doing variances. And it
Seemed
felt
like
like
one
we
a
were,
month almost.
yeah, and we were approving them all, so it wasn't an issue. But the 10% total area really covers everything. I would hate to put a number on that because that adds another layer. The idea is total lot coverage with accessory structures, and once you put a pool in, some of the lots in the center of the town, it actually makes more sense because Right now, the way it's written, you have 50% of the footprint or 1,000 square feet, or whichever's less, but it doesn't have a number. So you can have 10 accessory structures on there as long as you, and that's each accessory structure. So in hindsight, you could have 10 structures as long as individually, they, each one don't go over that. Now you're going to exceed that 10%, which is the whole idea, is to keep the coverage of the whole lot to a set number, and that's why the 10% comes up. And in the center of the town, a lot of the lots are, 6,000, 7,000 square feet. That limits them to 600 square feet or 700 square feet total. We were kind of going back and forth about that 10%. And on the large lots, may seem like a lot, but those are, you're talking a 5-acre lot, you're talking, 200,000 square feet. You're not going to notice a building like that. But in town, you're going to notice 10 different accessory structures that, have a lot of coverage. So it was kind of contradictive, and I think this cleans it up very well. It's straightforward and simple, especially with the verbiage being changed to the total area coverage. I think that makes sense.
As far as the definition of the lot, I know that my house, we're on 3 separate parcels. It's 2 lots in the Simon subdivision. Would that be considered
What we
one
would
lot,
do is
or
consider, yes.
on an
We would
individual?
consider, and this has always been my experience, when you have a parcel or a lot, you have 2 lots. House crosses that combines that. It doesn't change the legal description, but once you cross that property line, you're not gonna be able to come in and get another
Yeah,
house or
well,
anything.
that's what I assumed.
Right. So
Would be,
yes,
but-
in any part of the lots where the house is located, what we would consider, we would take that total square.
I think we'll still run into the problem of, on the bigger lots, building a fairly good-sized building, that you'll still have to have a variance on the height.
Yes.
Well, and we talked about changing the height,
The problem
didn't
with the
seem to
height
be-
is there's not really a standard for the height. If you have some of those large lots, you may have an RV go in there, they're gonna want a high headroom for the door. So then, depending on the roof pitch, there's so many variables there that we need to probably review that, to make sure, because there's also some other verbiage in there that talks about matching the roof pitch of the principal structure. So I think that would, need some eyes put on it, but the accessory coverage in general is should be straightforward. Once you exceed the height, if you're gonna put a 25-foot high accessory structure in the middle of the town, we're gonna wanna look at that. Because it's gonna stand up higher than most of the homes in town. We actually had that issue come up on Broadway, and it wasn't real clear. When we were meeting with the applicant, it wasn't real clear, and they put a tall building up in that.
And
I
we
think
really
as
haven't-
far as area,
Yeah.
I
We've
think
had
this-
more for area than we have height. We have had some height, especially on the bigger lots, 5 and 10 acres, but primarily it's been the area.
Yeah, and the height issue is 15 feet, and the way we define height is mean height. And really, nobody really understands mean height except the building inspector or somebody that's in this. Is the mean height's between the top plate and the peak. It's not the actual peak, so it can be a little misleading. So that 15 feet is actually pretty high if you consider, most of your pole barns and things like that have a pretty flat roof pitch.
Excuse me, could you reread your suggested language?
Okay, what I would suggest is to say, accessory structures shall not exceed a combined total of 10% of the area of any lot/parcel.
I like that. So you'd have to change the ordinance to
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board here? You satisfied with that verbiage?
I think it's good.
This is a public hearing, so at this point, I will open it up to anyone who has something to say about it from the audience. If you do, please come forward to the microphone there and state your name and address and what you have to say. Okay, hearing none. We'll close the public hearing portion of it. If nobody else has any questions, I would entertain a motion. Here's what we have to do. We have two choices. We make a favorable recommendation for proposed zoning ordinance text amendment, or an unfavorable recommendation for the proposed zoning ordinance text amendment. That goes to the town council, and they make the final decision in the form of an ordinance. So I would entertain a motion.
That accessory structures shall not exceed the combined area of 10% of the total area of the lot, if that is the language that Lisa said.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Barry, roll call, please.
Mr. Pato.
Aye.
Mr. Harvey. Aye. Mr. Thompson. Aye. Mr. Sheets.
Aye.
Mr. Hurt.
Aye.
Mr. Van Leer.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Okay, thank you. Second item, public hearing, site plan review, approval, fast track therapy, 120 West Main Street, 0.35 acres.
Okay.
You gonna do anything on this, or
I
you
just want
Curry?
to kind
Oh.
of briefly just
Okay,
describe the project, and then we'll have Mr. Battershell come up and add to that or whatever. This has been through the design review committee. They have been working diligently with the design review committee to come up with some architectural elements that meet the code. They've also been to the Board of Zoning Appeals and received 4 variances. I've listed those in your letter. I don't think I need to read through those again. This has been ongoing since about February. So they're anxious to get started. There are some drainage things that they're going to have to address, and I'll let Barry or Joe speak to that issue. But I think we're satisfied with what they've given us to proceed with approval. That being said, Rick, do you want to add anything to that?
Gentlemen and lady, my name's Rick Battershell. I'm an architect with Curry and Associates here in Danville. Let me give you a few statistics. First of all, we're building this building, will be owned by Brian and Amy Horner. Brian and Amy Horner, they own Fast Track Therapy. Fast Track Therapy has 2 or 3 other locations, 2. One in Avon, one in Speedway, and this will be their 3rd. The footprint of the building is going to be approximately 6,100 square feet, 120 east and west, 60 north and south. Total building area, because it is 2 stories, is going to be 9,781 square feet. Fast Track is going to take 4,253 of those square feet, and they'll lease 5,500. The building is going to sit to the south side of the lot, right up against the sidewalk there, right, just like the old Danner's building did. The main entrances will be on the north side where the parking lot will be. There'll also be a secondary entrance on the southeast corner, and that part of the building will be clipped, just like the old Danner's was. I also looked up, or did some research on that site, and back in 1910, there was a building there, and the corner was clipped, just like we're gonna do, and Danner's did. Parking lot, because, you'll interrupt coming southbound on Jefferson Street and have to leave southbound also because Jefferson Street's one way. We do have a secondary entrance into the parking lot to the alley that runs between us and the Christian church. That runs all the way through there. The only other thing is, it's a very attractive building. It's gonna have a lot of windows, it's got 50 windows in it. And I did want to briefly talk about drainage. We've talked with Barry, and I won't say beat this to death, but we've talked a lot about it. There's no storm drains in the area. So what we propose to do is basically drain everything to the parking lot and then out the curb cut to Jefferson Street, let it flow north to Jefferson, and then west on Clinton, and there's a storm drain over at Clinton and,
Washington.
no,
Yeah, to the east it'll be Washington.
East, not west.
east?
Yeah.
I thought
East will
we-
be Washington. Clinton, cross streets upstream.
Okay, all
Washington
right,
Street
you're
will be
right,
down.
you're right. Okay, but that's, there's just no other storm drains in the area that are close, so.
The water running down Washington Street.
It'll flow overland, Mrs. Rimp.
So really what happens there, and I've seen this area several times because every time it rains, there's a puddle of water on the southwest corner of Jefferson and Clinton. And once it gets so high, it'll crest Clinton and go on down Jefferson and then go all the way down to actually where it captures into Washington Street, where North Jefferson and Washington come together. There is some plans, and these are preliminary plans, to add some storm, because the whole area from Cross, Jefferson, even Washington, there's no structures on there. We have a preliminary plan of in the future, but we are talking several thousand feet of pipe, so it'll be a long program. We work from downstream upwards, so the idea would be to take this stormwater eventually and tie it into those structures. And that's where the notes from Joe comes in, and we can talk about that. I think we have a couple of good ideas.
Okay, good.
That'll be attractive. And in lieu of storage,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
in lieu of storage, what we've done, Taco Bell, Mary Queen of Peace, which is on the agenda. The hospital's done a couple of things in their parking lots. In lieu of having storage because the site just doesn't have enough space, we do a water quality feature, which is basically a vegetative filter. So those are some of the things we've done in lieu of that.
Because of the size of the building and the parking lot, the whole 0.35 acres is going to be hard surface.
Right.
And that's what it's always been,
Right.
you know, when Danner's was there and the building. So we aren't really changing stormwater much at all.
Right. So that's why there's no storage requirements.
Exactly.
So, and that's not out of the normal, what we've done with every other place. Most of the other places have done some kind of feature, and I think it's a simple thing, but it gives us the potential to take that water in the future and get it off the street and maybe not have so much water traveling down through the alleys and down Jefferson. I think that's the
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen, ladies?
I had one quick question.
Please.
The planting on the northwest corner there in the alley, both alleys meet.
Northwest, okay.
I'm wondering if that, I know how narrow that is. I go to Christian. I'm wondering if that's just not gonna get beat up. Vehicles
We
coming
are, I don't know if the drawings show, but Barry asked that we put curbs around there to, one, direct the water, the stormwater runoff from the alley into the parking lot, and the other is to prevent it from getting beat up there.
Well, I'm just afraid that even with a curb there, you're gonna have, especially if anything larger than a sedan comes through there. Know that church, we're looking at rebuilding that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I just didn't want that to become a problem for you later, you know, it's torn up, and it's,
Yeah,
just an option.
we'll take it.
Other than that, it's great. Better than the Danners.
I have a question for the owner. You're going to rent out the other side, of course. Any people looking at, what type of people are you looking for to rent now?
State your name, please.
With Fast Track Physical Therapy.
Thank you.
We have not, I mean, I literally picked up a sign today. We got some picnic tables on the lot right now, just for allowing for seating and stuff. And we just picked up a sign today. This basically shows a picture of the building, and it says Fast Track Physical Therapy coming soon. And then underneath of it, it does mention 4,000 plus square feet for rent. But we have not really reached out, or my personal preference would be is not just to rent out to a bunch of attorneys or an office or something like that. We'd like to have some. Yeah, and that's not a bad thing, but because there's plenty around there, and plenty of attorneys around the area and stuff. But we'd like to be something that really adds value to the community.
Restaurant, bar.
Obviously that might require a variance. So if that works for you guys, then that's what personally, just to let you know, that's what we would like it to be. But obviously we want to rent it. But we are looking at it now. I can think of one place we did reach out to that we think that would be maybe a good fit, but obviously that was right in the middle of COVID, and not any restaurant is wanting to look at anything right now probably. So, but yeah, so we would, my personal preference would be not necessarily a bar, as a, like that kind, but definitely a restaurant that, that's craft brewery or something like that, but potentially, but more just a local, not a franchise type of thing, but just a local place that people can go and have, and it serves good food. Is really what I'm looking for. But
Sure.
if we don't get any takers on that, and it's an office, then so be it. Obviously, we don't want empty space sitting there. So I mean, we'll be open to whoever approaches us to want to rent it. So yeah.
So you take care of all the upstairs? The only thing for rent is the downstairs floor?
No. So there's actually more. And on our side of it, we have there'll be around 1,500 square feet there, give or take a little bit, on the second floor, and then we have 3,000 on the first floor. The other half has also 3,000 square feet, and then what we have 2,000. Yeah, I think it's 2,000 second floor. So there'll be, I think, around 5,000 total.
I'm just curious, how many parking places?
That's one of our variances, but right now we got 21. 21 or 22.
Because we can't calculate the parking for a potential use, we're just basing it off of the type of use that they have, which is a professional office, personal service. And right now, they comply. They may be under one. And they do understand that if they come back with a restaurant and additional is going to be needed, they may have to come back. One of the things that we are working on right now, or the redevelopment commission is working out an agreement with the church, the Danville Christian Church, to make some improvements to their parking lot, to the north of their building, so that it could be used for public parking. Of course, we would have to work out hours and days out, but I think we're getting closer to that. Actually, redevelopment commission meets this week, and they do have an agreement, a letter of intent. So I think they're probably, so there will be some additional parking to accommodate, you know, another use in that building. And other buildings in the town.
Somewhat it will work out because our busier times will not, it's, again, this would be if it was a restaurant or something to that extent, but our busier times will be a little bit offset from the restaurant's busier times. So our clinic is open 5 days a week from 7 to 7. So weekends, we're not going to be there. That's the busier time for the restaurants, as well as things going on downtown. I mean, you know, things on the square and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll close at 7. Most of our patients and staff are out of there by around 7:30 typically, probably around 7:30 usually. So, and that's probably around that 4 and 5 o'clock. So an hour or two that will be a little bit busier overlap. We've had several patients that go to Danville Christian Church, so I reached out to a few of them and said, hey, you know, you guys are limited on parking too. I said, you know, on Sundays when you guys were not there. So if you guys want to have access to our parking lot, but potentially, if you don't mind some of my employees parking back in your area, that way we're not occupying parking spots from our patients. And so my feeling is that our staff would be parking back by the parking lot with the church if that works for them. But I know that was just some initial conversations with a couple people that go to church there. So, but yeah, if we can help them out on Sunday morning and give them more parking spots, then great. So.
And when do you propose this will be done?
You know, I just got some hard numbers on the estimates today. I would like to hopefully be submitting to the state within the next week or so. We'd like to get early release. Correct me if I'm wrong on anything I'm saying here. Yeah, we'd like to get early release on the foundation and start the site development as quick as we can. So you got to pay a little extra money and get that release.
We talked about last meeting, TAC committee, whether we could go ahead and start it prior to issuance of a with site work.
Right, we talked about moving dirt, things like that, and Barry would have a problem as long as they are using erosion control measures.
You know, we put pipe in the ground, we wouldn't do anything except site work.
Yeah, some of your
In the
earth
past.
disturbing activities, it's not been unusual for us to be, it is under Rule 5 requirements, so we do not have to, this is not a Rule 5 site, correct?
Exactly.
So we-
The bottom line is, depending upon the weather, if the weather cooperates, we'd like to get started fairly soon.
And how long would it take?
I don't know if Tim's throwing out any ideas to you, but he's thinking 3 months.
90 to 120 days.
Yeah, just a ballpark, that's all.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to be open fall, late fall, but I'd like to be open this fall if possible.
Thank you.
We're private practice. We don't own. I don't know if that matters to you guys, but we're just private practice. We are not a franchise. I've been a physical therapist 26 years, and we've been successful in Avon, and then we opened our Speedway clinic probably 3 years ago. So we went from 3 therapists in 2015 to 10 therapists now.
A good entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, and we hopefully potentially into next year, if all things go well and our volume keeps going back up after the virus thing here, is that we can maybe look into. We'll see.
Any other questions? Katie?
No, I want to say, I know you guys have worked really hard on this project. I know we've taken a lot of time to get where we're at, so you've done a good job. You've
Thank
done
you.
everything you've
And
asked.
I would rather do it this way, Barry, than have surprises
Yep,
during construction. So
agreed.
there'll still be those surprises.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We just have to
Start digging.
vote on
We
it.
already
Vote on it,
know
don't we?
that.
There's no
Do-
paperwork to fill out, right? No paperwork.
But I do have, if, this was something that when I was preparing the letter, I thought about it, but the comment that I have on the staging area for construction equipment and things like that, I know it's gonna be tight. My only concern is that blocking traffic or anything on that street is my only concern, so. Right, so if you could possibly show, because I talked to Barry, I said, can we just ask them to show a staging area on the lot? the area where you can be working, to try to. Come up here, Rick. I don't know if we'll be able to hear you or not.
They're going to be very limited on the amount of building materials that they can normally, stage on a site. So,
What about construction equipment and things like that?
well, there'll be some.
That was my only concern. Street or causing.
There's a parking place or two where our curb cut is.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing as well is we're all pretty well versed in the town right now because of Miller Pipeline doing all the road cuts. The biggest thing that, if this gets approved and you move forward, the biggest thing I would ask is communication with all of our departments to make sure that you let them know so that we can let police and fire, council members, other people know. We put it on Facebook as well so everybody knows to avoid the area at all costs if they can. Sometimes it diffuses situations, so just communication is the biggest thing.
The other thing, just to let the Plan Commission know, the town has also talked about possibly doing some, changing some of the parking along Jefferson Street. Right now, it's all it's angle parking up by their lot, but further to the north, it's all parallel. So we have thought about making some angle parking spots. We've been doing that through redevelopment commission as well, so we could make the parking situation.
Every parking space helps.
Yes. They did a sketch, and I don't remember, were you in on that? Yeah, I can't remember the exact number. It wasn't a lot of spaces, but,
Everyone else.
they would gain a few.
Kind of like the angle parking now.
Right. That's on Jefferson, right. So, anyway, that's all I have, I promise.
Question about a restaurant, is that something that interests you? I mean, is that a thing that you would look upon as a good thing for the town? I ask. No, in my opinion, I think the benefit of the town, I think it'd be a good thing for the town myself. But again, like I say, it's what we're looking for, but that's what we'd like to.
So let me just recap. You're asking me?
Well, you just brought it up, what do you want to put in there, and hey, would it be a restaurant?
Yeah, that's good you asked me that question.
Well, no. It's just because you brought it up.
So I thought about it, a therapy thing in the middle of town, and I tried to be clear in my head about no prejudice about it. And the positive things I see is you have a flow of people in short increments of a half hour, 20 minutes, an hour.
Or an hour.
So, and you have more than one or two clients in there?
Well, depending on how many therapists we have.
How many therapists would you have in there?
Well, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. No problem. Yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime you're open, when we opened in Avon in 2015, we had 3 therapists. And
Right.
by the end of the year, I think we were up to 5 maybe, and now we're up to 7. We were at 8, and I moved one over to Speedway just because we outgrew it. So in the beginning, it would be, I'm going to open that practice. We're going to have a lot of money into that clinic, so
No,
don't
I
wanna put
understand all
pressure on
that in
them. So-
generalities.
Yeah.
So then I thought about that, and I thought that'd be a good thing, because you bring a lot of flow of people into the town, and then they get out and they might say, we'll go to Mayberry's to eat, or we'll go to Frank's, or the courthouse grounds, something like that, or
Yeah.
go shopping.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think you're a bit of a draw to bring people in, and if you get something next door then they could go there and do something, it'd be very good. So, yeah, in the beginning, I wondered why a therapy in the town, but then I thought, sure, that's okay.
The reason why we looked at Danville strongly, if you guys got time for this, and if you're not, this won't take that long, but the reason why we decided that we wanted to look at Danville is there's no other therapy places in Danville except for the hospital.
Diesel's was a therapy place.
Yes. I was never in there. I was never in there, but I've heard that, so.
And we miss it.
But there's just no other than Diesel's that now they're closed, of course. So now we're down to Hendricks, and there's nothing against Hendricks at all, but there's just no other. You look at you look at Plainfield. There's 5 other physical therapy clinics in there. We would be the 6th, okay? But I just feel that our therapist, the therapist that I would open that clinic with, is just excellent therapist. I'll put her against any other therapist in the area. For us, as a outpatient clinic, we treat patients for an hour. As compared to 30 minutes where many other places are, and the cost of your care, because we're a private practice, insurance companies could care less what they pay us, your cost of care for that 1 hour is probably 2.5 times less than what it would be for 30 minutes of therapy at the hospital. So, and again, that's not knocking on the hospital, but so prior to probably 2013, when Indiana finally okayed direct access, so meaning you could come see me off the street without a doctor's referral or anything else. Prior to 2013, you had to go see your doctor, he had to refer you, and all that kind of stuff. Well, prior to that, Hendricks is, most of the physicians, it's totally different than what it was 26 years ago when I started as the therapist. There's a lot of doctors working for themselves. Most all your doctors now work for the big practices, either the hospitals, the big orthopedic groups, big neurological groups, or whatever. And so, obviously, if they have their own therapy, that's kind of, they're going to get their hands slapped if they refer outside of it. So, we're not going to get a lot of referrals from the Hendricks doctors, probably, but we can market to the community. So, directly, and we can definitely show a difference between us, and we've done that in Avon. There's in Avon, there's what, 6 other clinics besides us, 5 other clinics, 6 other clinics besides us, and I would say for just the outpatient side, we're probably the busiest of all of them. So, and I think it's because we give good care. So anyway, that's the reason why we wanted to. And then my wife and I looked around town, we just really did not find any other location in town anywhere that we really wanted to be. We wanted to be on something that was more main, a lot of traffic draw, and obviously Main Street does that for you. And we just didn't really want to be on Old 36, all those types of things. So, and we realized we used to be at Prestwick down here for years, and then when we went into Avon and got on the main drag there, and you're in an area with more people, it made a huge difference in our patient volume. So.
Well, I think you have good selling points there.
Yeah.
And a good place to advertise. Position.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And trust me, we're paying for it.
Be around the corner and it wouldn't be as good.
Yeah. So, we're looking at, and Plainfield is over by the Myers in that area. But again, very busy area and stuff like that. But I think our quality of care really competes with everybody else around us. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, as far as Mr. Miller's letter, Banner, are we all square on that?
Yeah, I think that's what I addressed a little bit with Rick earlier. There's just a couple of small items that we want to try to tweak on that drainage. It's not any huge changes. There's just a feature there that's going to help the town out in the future to capture that water. So, Joe, do you have anything you'd like to add? Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions on the board? It is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up for anyone that would like to speak on this issue. Hearing nothing, we'll close that portion. This board, all we have to do is take a vote to approve the site plan review. And that's it. There's nothing to sign or anything.
Yeah. You'll have to make it subject to them getting approvals, because they are on the agenda next Tuesday for their variances. So. They're on the Board of Zoning Appeals agenda for next Tuesday night for variances that they discussed tonight, so they have not been approved yet.
So the motion should be subject to the granting of the variance.
Right. With that in mind, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that the site plan be accepted, approved, contingent upon granting of the 4 variances that are being sought.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Barry?
Mr. Pato?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Sheets?
Aye.
Ms. Rippert?
Aye.
Mr. Greg Van Leer?
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming in.
And lady. Thank you.
Take care. Tell your wife I said hi.
Okay, number C, public hearing. A 3-lot minor subdivision, Dwayne and Patricia Lane on the north side of Lincoln Street, 1/10 of a mile west of Kentucky Street, 1.66 acres.
Evening, I'm Dale Cruz. Cruz Consulting, 7384 Business Center Drive in Avon, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Dwayne Lane. And we're not here this evening to talk about self-storage. We do that a lot, but not tonight. We will be again, but not tonight.
Pig lot.
Yeah, at Pig Lot. We will be actually talking about Pig Lot. 'Cause that's on the board right now for us. But tonight, we're here to talk about a 1.7 acre parcel. It's actually 2 parcels, but they total about 1.7 acres that Dwayne bought about a year ago, I think. And went to the Board of Zoning Appeals to get approval to build duplexes and also to have our lot width is supposed to be 75 feet minimum, and we are at 74.33, which is 74 feet and 4 inches, I think. Sorry, it's 74 feet and 8 inches. So we were 4 inches shy of having the correct lot width. So we landed at the Board of Zoning Appeals to ask for a variance to allow the lot width to be what it is on our plat. Both of those variances were approved. And so tonight, we're here to seek approval for a 3-lot minor plat to allow 3 duplexes to be built on these 3 lots. It'd be 2-bedroom, are they 2-bedroom, 2-bath, Dwayne? 2-bedroom, 2-bath, each side, and a 1-car garage, each side. That's it, that's all I got.
Have the issues from banning been addressed?
Yeah, they have, we've addressed them internally, but Joe hasn't seen our reply yet, but I don't have any problems with, I don't think we'll have any issues satisfying those, so I would be. We'll meet Joe's requirements, we'll meet those. And go through them if you want, but I don't think we have any issues with them, so we'll satisfy them.
Yeah, we don't need more sidewalks with poles in them.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. We'll push
I
them
think
back.
we have a few of those, don't we?
We do. And the state says there are sidewalks too. So,
But the good thing is, we're gonna have sidewalks for that little stretch there.
We just need them down the rest of them.
every little parking spot helps.
Wait, so will it just be a short little strip of sidewalk then, and then just
It'll
stop
be in
on?
front of their lots.
Okay.
Yeah.
200 and some feet, right? 377.
That's right.
220 or
220,
so, 30,
35.
somewhere in that neighborhood. 74 times
224.
3. Yeah,
224 feet.
you cheated, you had to look on the. Anybody have any questions for him?
I just want to mention that the right-of-way on this is a little different, because this follows our current thoroughfare plan. You want to kind of go through that?
You mean for the
with the plan
35?
commission, yeah, because the existing right-of-way was a lot less than when you replatted. We're actually following our current
Right.
thoroughfare plan.
Right,
So
so
our
the-
right-of-way grew on this project.
So the
And-
right-of-way is gonna be wider along this 200-plus
Yeah.
feet.
To comply with the thoroughfare plan.
What is it, 35 now instead
Yeah.
of 30? Was it 30 before? Is that
Well,
right?
actually, I don't think it was actually recorded, but the typical rule of thumb is like 9 feet from edge of pavement is what we've gone through town. I just brought that up because there's gonna be some sanitary lines that are gonna need to go through these properties, and they won't require easements because they actually are. there is a drainage and utility easement that's on the plat. So they will be in the easement, we won't have any issues like some that we've had with sanitary and so on. It's a pretty clean layout. The only questions that I had, we can address those, is the drainage, and I think you and I had already talked about taking the drainage to the north anyway, so I just think that wasn't shown on the plans. I like the plans. Do you have any elevations? I know that's not part of the site plan. Did you send elevations?
Of the
Yeah.
structures?
Did-
I think we did it at the zoning meeting, but I don't.
Okay. Okay. And this did get rezoned, or is, no, this is a special exception? Okay. And that's already been approved?
Could you explain the special exception to me?
So the R2 district allows duplexes via special exception, which means we go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to get approval to allow the duplex to be on this property. And that happened, I don't know exactly when it was. Yeah, so it happened a few months ago.
Just to add to that, in every zoning district, there is a list of permitted uses, there's a list of special exception uses. So what that is, they're permitted, but they are permitted by review of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Because it could be a use that they may want to limit, it could be a business, be a home occupation or a home business that they want to limit hours and review everything. So that's what that's for. And these were permitted as a special exception.
Any other questions? This is also a public hearing. So I will open it up to anyone in the public that has something to say about this. Nobody move. Hearing none. We'll close that portion of it. So what we need to do here, we can approve the minor subdivision plat request, approve the minor subdivision plat request with conditions or waivers, or deny it. Those are the three options. So if you gentlemen and lady have no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
President, I move we approve the minor subdivision plat request with conditions of coming to agreement with the letter from Mr. Miller of Banning.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Do we have a motion and a second? Once again, Barry?
Cato?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Sheets?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Van Leer?
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item D, last but not least.
I second it, yeah.
Okay, so the final item on the agenda is, this was before you several months ago, they rezoned. This is off of Old Road. Did a rezone. Part of the property was one zoning district, the property was another zoning. So what they did is they just made all that property R2C. And as part of being in the R2C, we have to, you guys, for Prevailing architecture. I've listed some of them for them to
Can you explain to me what R2C contains?
It's basically right, it's like the R2, but the C has the architectural, it's like the core of the town. Okay? Yeah. And so there's architectural requirements that they have.
We have to choose four, minimum of four.
And these numbers are the number of houses with that style within the 19 located in the 2-block radius? Okay. Would it make sense to just run down the list going from the top to the bottom? Looks like if we cut off, Bungalow Cottage only has 2, but National Folk has 9. And then your ranch is 2 and Gable Front 7, so those would be the 4 most common in the area.
Top 4.
Yeah.
You just building one house in there? For now?
Do you have any heartburn with
Yes.
any of these styles?
Good job.
Dwayne Lane, 291 East Main Street, Danville. I really don't understand the different styles, but I give a plan to Lisa, and we went over it, and she asked me to make a couple changes to it that she thought would fit in the neighborhood very good. We made them changes, and Lisa was happy with that. And so I would assume that one of the styles that you're talking about is a style. You know what style is the house I'm doing?
I'll tell you what, this,
I'll help you with that.
this is really a struggle for me. And I did not include photos of all the houses that I selected in that area. I feel like giving the Plan Commission pictures of all those homes is a little. I think for that area, there are a lot of ranches, and I only put 2, but if there's a subdivision right across the street, and every one of those houses are pretty much style houses. I think this home could probably fall under the category of the National Folk or Gable.
Yeah, and I think when we talked about making some changes, one of the things was a 612 roof pitch.
Put a steeper pitch on it, we
The
also put a
other
gable on the front.
Was adding the roof line over the garage and the door, which really made that fit into that gable front home.
Yeah, because what you have doesn't really reflect. Right.
Yeah, because he put it over the garage and then he put the gable
Yeah,
at the
porch.
top.
Right.
So if you look at
Yes.
those, there's basically 2 roof lines there and a gable. Pictures don't do it justice, but this will be aesthetically pleasing with the depth of those roofs. I think it'll look.
The other thing is, this house, I don't know how anybody's gonna.
I'd say you're not gonna be able to see it from the
You're
road,
not.
are
I
they?
mean, it's back behind what used to be the trading
Trading
post.
post.
Not that that's, shouldn't lessen the requirements, I'm
No,
just saying
no.
that I don't think it's gonna stand out. Anybody.
Fast to see it.
Well, we could even, I mean, it's a minimum of 4, we could put all 6 of these on there.
Or you could restrict it to, so, yeah. That's why he's here before you.
Is the access to this property, Dwayne, is it off of Kentucky or is it off of Old North Salem State Road?
It is off Old North Salem Road, just west of the old trading post on the south side. There's a house before you get to the creek, and there's a 50-foot strip of ground that goes back to that. I think it's almost 2.5 acres there. It's a large piece of property.
Are you only putting one house up here now? Before you were putting several, weren't you?
I never said what I was doing. A lot of people assume.
Thinking of Jeff Bennington. Jeff Bennington had this property and I think submitted some plans with multiple houses.
Okay.
Did an apartment complex, and then he went down to doubles, and we will use the property more than for just one, I assume. And again, till we start doing something and making plans, then we decide what we're gonna do. I don't think it's a piece of property that I can put 10 houses on. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. I could put 10 houses on there. I don't think that it would be a good choice. I'm really good at putting houses on small pieces of property. So,
I really like this one house. I think it's perfect.
what house Lisa loves, she might love a few more too.
Dwayne, when I first looked at these drawings, and I think it's from what's been going on for the last 3 or 4 months, I looked down there and it says COVD porch, and I thought that said COVID porch. I thought What is this world coming to?
You gotta ask the guy that draws the plans, I don't know.
That's a new style of home.
That's a good looking house,
Okay. So we need to just vote on the 4 style houses? And we're saying that the first 4? Everybody in agreement with that?
Fine with that.
Okay. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move we select or approve the prevailing architectural styles for new home construction. South side of Old North Salem Road, with the 4 styles being National Folk, Ranch, Gable Front, and Bungalow.
Okay. We have a motion?
Second.
And we have a second.
Beto.
Aye.
Mr. Harvey.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Dietz.
Aye.
Ripper. Mr. Van Leer.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Thanks.
That is it. Other than that, do you have any reports, Lisa?
Well, yes, you will be having a meeting next month. I believe that the Arbor Homes is going to file a PUD for the property on 10th Street, not the church property. but
That's the
one right
135
next to me.
acres next to you?
Yes. And I'm okay with that because I think if we would, they could they can develop that property right now. It's an R2 zoning, and they can get 350 lots on that
How many?
property. 350 with the current zoning. If they do a PUD, we can say, okay, we want you to do 612 roof, we want you to do 50% brick, or we want, whatever it might be. And have a lot better design and a lot better layout, a lot better product.
We're gonna need to redesign that street out there, 10th Street.
You know,
Yeah.
Tommy, this project happens, I think that the release rates are gonna be better because that field, we have fought drainage going through Whisperwood, right there at 10th where it
Yes.
crosses. I know everybody's seen water over that street before.
Excuse me.
There's a lot of field tiles in there and they drain like as soon as
Right
it
through
hits
my
the dirt,
property.
it's draining that farm field. So this, everything I do seems to revolve around water that comes out of the sky. And I think this is another one of those things that's gonna help the flow, because we're gonna retain that rain event and release it slower. I think from a drainage standpoint, it's a good idea, and from architectural commitments, we did this once before, that didn't get approval. When they do a PUD, we can have a lot of input, on what the home looks like. I think that goes a long way.
How much time will we have to look over their?
They haven't
they
actually
submitted
filed an
anything?
application yet. He did send me a conceptual layout. So, you'll have, if I can get the packets out on Thursday, you'll have from Thursday. Need more time. I'll try to, what I can do, if you'd like, is send that conceptual layout, so you have it to know.
I'm guessing we'll probably have a big for that.
Yes.
I was gonna say, will it
Well,
be a public
Whisperwood will be in
comment?
there.
It's hard to say. But my guess is, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Really.
It's already an R2C. The only thing that they're gonna want to change is to go to a PUD, right?
It's an
Yeah.
R2, and they're proposing a PUD. They get about 40 more lots versus the straight R2. So, to me, when you're talking about 300 plus lots, that's not. But
Traffic will be an
Lisa?
issue.
Yes, and they will probably, they'll have to do traffic study and figure out what they'll have to do.
Has anyone considered the effect on the schools? We just voted down a referendum.
Well,
The school's always been in favor of
I was gonna,
growth.
yeah.
I know they were actually in here and supported, at the meeting, supported Arbor Homes on the last development that got denied. So they actually, go ahead, Joe.
Joe Miller, Banning Engineering. It's just been my experience that schools like home developments. They can plan for them and do that kind of stuff. This not gonna go with 350 homes instantaneously. They'll do 40 at a time or 80, and then it'll go over a couple years. The thing that schools kind of dread are apartments. So those are things that they have a lot of influx of people coming in and out that they can't track, and so homes tend to be more of a habit.
I used to work for the school corporation, and they were excited about the acreage that was going in across from the high school, because that money follows that student. So the more students they have, the more money that they get.
I've been following family up in Chicago. They live pretty much in downtown, and downtown Chicago is pretty much devastated with the virus and the looting and all that. These people are starting to talk. They don't want to live in big towns anymore. I really think we have a big opportunity here or we're going to see a lot of people trying to move out this way. So I think the people, if we are going to build on more subdivisions and that, we could probably afford to make them a little bit more fancy. Because the people coming out of the cities will have more money. It'll help the townspeople increase their value. And with saying that, I would like to propose that all houses being built in the future have a front porch. I'm not from here. When I came to Danville, one of the romantic and appealing things to this town were all these little houses, all these nice quaint houses with front porches on them. Where I know in Washington Street, they have a little bit of a group that has a porch society. I look at some of these drawings here, they're pretty plain. They're a place to live, put your car. But one of the things in life, go out on your front porch and sit, or out on your back porch. So I don't know, where do we start, or if anybody is interested in that, to kind of make an include that anything we build in the future has a front porch on it of a certain style.
Yeah, and that would be my first reply would be your definition of a porch. Is it a full wraparound?
4 people, roof, and a fence.
Okay.
And
Well, I'll say, I work up in Boone County, RMC up there, and we have several subdivisions that are $500,000 homes. And you practically reach out window of one house and touch them. They don't want yards. They don't necessarily want, they don't want to fool with them. And they can't build them fast enough.
yeah, but I'm talking about a porch.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
They could sit on a
that's-
porch and touch the other
well,
house.
And I'm just saying they don't necessarily want, I was a big fan of a lot of folks.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think we have to take into consideration all the rest of the people in the town, and maybe an opportunity with influx of people with a lot more money. And if we bring up the standard and looks of the house, it would benefit everybody in town.
I think, having a nice front porch could actually, 2 birds with 1 stone, cut down on some of that yardage that people may not want. I mean, we have I think it's like, a 1/5 acre lot, and to me, that's like a perfect size. I mean, I'm fine with a little bit less yard, and I think porches are great to sit on and get to know your neighbor. You see people walk by. I don't know if we can specifically say these are now required, but I mean, I support what you're saying for sure.
Sure. I mean, a back porch is fine, private, but a front porch, you see all your neighbors go by. I don't know if you want to wave to them or not, but I just think it's more, I'm a sociable person.
And over the last probably 5 to 10 years has been reaching out and trying to get people back on their front porches, getting neighbors to talk to each other. So, I mean, I don't think that that's too far of reach to do. I don't know, the only way that we could make it a requirement is to amend the ordinance somehow to make it a requirement.
Right.
Maybe as these new subdivisions come in, you know, we encourage it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And hey, they like front porches, if you want to get it.
And
Yeah.
you got an
Well, that would be
opportunity.
a thing with a PUD.
Right.
Exactly.
More PUDs
Right.
and say, look, front porches.
Yeah.
At least offer them.
So most of those homes are gonna have a front porch, but it may just be the width of the doorway. You know, it's not gonna be one you can sit on. So, but most of those homes have windows facing the road, so they could have a porch extend out to the garage depth, and you could have, you know, the porch to where you could have 2 or 3 people sit on that porch.
4
I
people.
don't think it's a reach, especially if they go to a PUD and we're asking for some architectural features, those could be put in there. I think it would be hard to actually, you know, we always want to talk to the lawyers, but I think it might be hard to actually make that a requirement for every house that's built. But I think we can capture those in those architectural commitments.
Well, then can we give them choices to say we would be more favorable this side if you did this? So do we have choices like that on some?
So that would be
Plans?
like a checklist, if I'm thinking right. That would be like, we would have these architectural features that you must meet.
Right.
And it would be a checklist. You gotta meet 3 out of the 6, or whatever the number is, and we can come up with those features and give them that sheet and say, you need to meet these in each house that comes in. They send us a checklist
Right.
and show that, and then we review it based on that. That's not unusual at all.
Right, but that doesn't mean that every house would have a front porch.
Right.
If we give them options, and I think a lot of this came out of not, of having such a plain front facade, just one flat, you know, wall, like you do, you know, bay window or some type of something fancy on the front of the house.
Yeah, if they have an upgraded landscaping, you know, that counts as one, you know, and then.
Window grids.
Window grids and things like that.
Shutters.
I've got a list of, that the county uses, and I thought it was excellent, that you had to meet a certain point value, and you had to meet it for the front, the back, and the sides, and then you had options, and each option had a point attached to it, so that you could select. It was really pretty good. I thought that, you know, a person could sit down and kind of helps them plan for their house. They can select different options.
So how do we implement that?
Well,
What's the next step to?
So I think we would reach out to, what I'd like to do is send you, we issued 4 permits. And I'm gonna make a note to send, I can send it to everybody if they want them, the permits we just issued at Camden Creek. And I'm thinking in my head that there was a couple of those that had porches on them. You know, they're not gonna be the porches that we have in the middle of town that wrap all the way around.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they're
no, no.
porches where you could physically sit there.
Yeah.
And, you know, exactly what you're talking about. Spend more time outside instead of being inside on your
Sure.
computer or your tablet. I think that's another big
Healthier?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much, you know, get outside and do something.
Let him have decks on.
Well, you know, honestly, almost every house at Four Oaks has a deck. But we're talking, you know, and I know this was a point a while back that, you know, the houses out at Camden Creek, and that was originally that went to a PUD. I had to think about that. That is a PUD.
Camden?
Camden Creek is a PUD, because we have architectural commitments, we have the HOA, and we have the actual PUD, but, the talk was about the price of the home. And the 4 permits that we've issued, and we just issued them today, they're
Right.
model homes, and there's not one of them under $225,000.
Is that the one out there?
Yeah.
350,
So I don't think we're gonna see $175,000 homes anymore. For one, they're just priced, you're not gonna get anything for
Yeah,
that.
right.
But what they do have is they have a lot of commitments, and I felt like we could have done better with that one. If that was done, you know, with the groups that we have now, because everybody's got a common goal. is, managed growth. But I think we might be able to pull that off with some of these new developments, because the homes that we have now, they already have architectural features like we've never had. I mean, they have board and batten, they have shake, they're craftsman style homes, and they have a lot of features to them. But most of those have porches, and I was just looking at Dwayne's plans here because I thought, I think he's got a porch.
Small.
But it's wide and maybe 4 feet deep. So even this house has a porch. But I think the next step would be to reach out to a few people. I know I did the class. Didn't you do the class? So we did a little networking, and I think we reach out to those people first and bounce that off of those people and say, hey, what do you think you can do, and not scare everybody off.
I am on the Indiana Planning listserv, and I could put something out on that, just to see how other communities have handled that.
That would be wonderful.
Just to get, some feedback. I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd just like to make a comment. So when I was a child, it was hot. People went to work. We didn't even know about air conditioning. And they all came home, house was hot. Well, they all went down to somebody's porch. We played around until the sun went down. And if they could stand up and walk home, we maybe helped some of them go home. But it was a great social life, and to this day, we have so many friends from that the ones that are still alive, we still keep in contact with.
It's funny you say that, because I went to school in this building. We didn't have air conditioning. So we wanted to be outside as much as possible.
Yeah, that's right. That's why we stayed outside in the old.
It was hot.
Everybody says we were outside from 8 o'clock in the morning till night.
That's
Well,
me.
it was hot in there. It was an oven.
And we always had the windows up, but it's hard to change that lifestyle that we're in right now. Everybody's got a tablet. My child, I've got to get a fishing pole and hook her and drag her outside. It's really hard, but
If you have good Wi-Fi there, you can use the tablet on your porch.
well, you know what's good Wi-Fi is the one that I have, is I can cut her tablet off, and she doesn't have it. So, but
Internet's down again.
So I like the idea, because I think that's going
Yeah.
to change a whole social, but the first step would be reaching out and seeing what
Right.
everybody thinks, and then going the next step and making it
A
happen.
nice roof, 4 people with a fence around it, so it's cozy. If you don't make it all, then it's be a flat plate of concrete, and they won't do it. Put a couple of chairs there. But if you make it inviting, then people will go out there. I'd even come over and visit some of these people. I don't know if that would be a good thing.
Anything else to come before the board?
And just to let you know, I got a call from an engineer about the Los Patios 2. They are wanting to demo that and put a Starbucks in. Haven't had anything applied
Where's
for.
this?
Where the Los Patios is, down by
Bucks.
Asia Walk, Old
Really?
Burger King.
Yeah.
So,
Starbucks, that'll be busy.
filed anything, but they have called to find out what the permit requirements
My
are.
wife will be down there on.
You know who's going to visit that the most is the high schoolers.
Yeah.
They
Oh, yeah.
love
Well,
Starbucks.
the 20 and 30-year-olds.
I like the hot chocolate at Christmas time.
Get a Starbucks, they'll put us on the world map then.
Exactly. Who would have thought, Danville, right?
Yeah.
Where I live, I think there's good coffee is that Cabin Coffee, because they roast those beans right there. So it's good.
Yeah. That's
It's
all I
not
have.
cheap.
Yeah, but it's a
Anybody
drug,
else
so
got
everybody's
anything?
willing to pay for it.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And a second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. John?
I did.
Adam.